Hello, everyone. Welcome to Karimu Talks. My name is Marianne Kent-Stoll. I am president and co-founder of Karimu International Help Foundation. Karimu is a nonprofit that my husband Don and I started in 2007, and it has continued ever since to expand and to eliminate poverty. Today, I have the special honor of interviewing Eduardo Lins Henrique, a very enthusiastic volunteer who has already in a few months made a big difference to Karimu. I can't wait for you to hear from Edu. So good morning, Edu. Nice to see you.
Hi,
I so
Marianne.
Hi.
It's a
I so
pleasure.
appreciate you taking the time to talk with me. And I know a little bit about you, but I can't wait to hear more about you. And I can't wait for others to hear about you too. So shall we begin?
Yeah, sure. Thanks for inviting me, and thanks for everything you are teaching me. I'm learning a lot from you, and I'm very excited to talk with everyone here today.
So, Edu, these questions are pretty open-ended because I want you to just expand and say whatever it is you want to say. I'm really curious about where you grew up and what were your hopes and dreams as a child, and who was Edu as a child and as a young man, and still a young man, by the way. But who is Edu growing up?
Okay, so first of all, I'm Brazilian, right? So I was born in Brazil. I grew up in Brazil in a very interesting city. It's a city with great universities, especially in technology. So it's called Campinas, is the Silicon Valley of Brazil. I had the privilege to study in a private school. My mom is a mathematics teacher, and my dad is a doctor. So we were middle upper class, and I studied in a very good school. I'm Christian also, so I grew up with Christian values, and I know that would be a part of our conversation, but I learned from my family that generosity and helping others must be a priority, right? So we were always uh, paying attention on this when I was a kid. Yeah, so this is where I came from. I graduated in computer science, so I studied in my hometown, and at the same time, I also did a second. I attended a second university on advertising and marketing in São Paulo. So I traveled 1 hour and a half commute between both cities. Computer science at night and marketing in the morning. I graduated in both of them. It was a privilege, and then I started my career as an entrepreneur. And when I was a child, I always dreamed to travel the world. Like the first time I entered in a boarded in an airplane, I was 21. So I always travel to close cities near São Paulo. But yeah, the first time I entered in an airplane was I was 21. So I always dreamed when I was young to travel around the world and understand the world. So had this adventure to meeting different people, visiting different places. This was my dream when I was a kid.
And so you ended up becoming very successful in your business and as an entrepreneur. And I think you're being very humble. What did you end up becoming? What did you do with your degree?
Yeah, so I was part of a group of entrepreneurs that created a company called Movili in Brazil, and we had many challenges. I bankrupt twice before the things start working well for us, but at the end of the story, we became very successful and very we create a big company. Um, we became one of the first unicorns of Brazil. Unicorn is a company that has a valuation of more than $1 billion. So and we expanded to Latin America, and then I came to Silicon Valley in 2012 to open our operations in Silicon Valley. Our story created a success case in Stanford. So I was a guest speaker in the Stanford MBA for 6 years, telling this innovation story and this company that came from Brazil going global. And today we are a big tech conglomerate, multi-billion-dollar in valuation. I was the president of one of our companies. We became a holding company with many companies below this holding, and I became the president of one of our companies that we sold to a Swedish group in 2000, and we announced in 2020, and we sold in 21. I spent 2 years working with this Swedish group, and then I decided to quit and retire. I traveled a lot during this sabbatical period. I went to the Burning Man in Nevada. I went to the Camino de Santiago, the St. James Way in Spain. I walked 700 kilometers by foot in a pilgrimage. And one of the best things that happened in my life, I went to a humanitarian trip with Karimu. Nelson invited me, and this completely changed my life in July, 2 years ago. Last year, last July, 2023. Yeah, and then I decided to open a school. So today I have a school for entrepreneurs where I teach entrepreneurs. I mentor them, and 50% of my profits in the school I donate to Karimu. That is another part-time job that I have. I work around, I don't know, 10, 15 hours a week to help Karimu to expand and be a better entity. So I'm dedicating my hours here to help this entity that I love, this cause
Thank
that I love.
you. Thank you so much. What a fantastic journey. Some things that I pick up as you're telling this journey is how matter of fact you say, "Oh yeah, we went bankrupt twice." I think it's wonderful because so often people would be like, "Oh, I don't want to do this because I might make mistakes." And one of the things I've learned from working with you, Edu, is mistakes are just ways to learn. We don't need to get hung up on them. And if we get too hung up on making mistakes and trying to be perfect, we will never move ahead. And it just seems like your spirit of enthusiasm and let's try it has taken you very far in life. But you have to be a humble person to say, yep, I made a mistake, I failed. You don't have to be right all the time. So I think that spirit has carried you far. And it was one of the things that attracted me to you right away when I met you last July in your first trip. So let's talk a little bit about that first trip. And now you've already traveled twice on a Karimu trip to the villages and the communities that Karimu serves. So how would you describe your first trip? And how would you describe your second trip? And what do you think you have learned in that process?
Okay, so my first trip, I know very little about what Karimu did, right? Was doing. I knew about the newsletters that I used to read. I'm a donor of Karimu for many years, like I think 4 or 5 years. But I didn't know in detail what really happened there. So I had the opportunity to visit the village, and I remember very well when we were arriving there, and we saw like 1,000, probably 1,500 people with the leaves, and extremely happy that the volunteers were arriving. This was a remarkable moment for me, because I get emotional when I remember this, because the energy is so great, so strong, that you remember this forever. And then I went there, and people allocated me in some jobs, right? So I was an auditor, and by the way, I loved being an auditor. I was, including, I think I was privileged because I was an auditor in the water points, and to be an auditor in the water points, you have to put your helmet, and you have to go in a motorbike with the guide and the engineer. And by the way, the drivers were very careful with us, so I felt very safe there. And I was auditing the new water points that we are going to open the faucets in Ari. It was around 200 water points that we had to audit, and we had to take pictures and the GPS to geolocate them. And also we had to open claims when we found something wrong with the water points, because we created this methodology that we audit things that we built, and the community need to take care of them. So in the morning I was auditing things, and in the afternoon I was saying that I was doing the bureaucratic work that was opening claims in a spreadsheet, very organized and very structured, the process. And then the engineers will have to take care of fixing things that I found that were not okay. I also was a teacher. In fact, I was not a teacher. I was an assistant of Kathy, that was the arts teacher. So we give arts classes to that kids. It was great. I also was an instructor in a class to teachers that we were teaching the Google tools. So we are instructing them, we're teaching them how to use the Google tools, Google Spreadsheet, Google Docs, Google Drive, for them to have more tools for them to teach. So I was one of the instructors. And I also was a soccer player, because there was one day that we had to play soccer with the kids, and I love it. It was incredible how they play so well with sandals, and the field was terrible, full of bumps. And it was unbelievable the ability they have, the talent they have to play soccer in that condition. So I felt that I was terrible in that conditions, and they were fantastic. And then, Marianne, in the second trip, I was
Wait a
going.
minute, Adu. I want to say something about the first trip, um,
Okay.
because yeah, you did a tremendous job of going to every water point. But there was something that happened at the water point, this spirit of gratitude that you had when you first arrived. How did that continue when you went to the water point and people coming out and talking to you?
Yeah, it's difficult to speak, but I'll try. Um,
Sorry, don't mean to
I
choke
start
you up,
talking
buddy.
with people, or start interviewing these people, with the engineer helping me to translate. And these people, they used to walk like 4, 6 hours to get water. And I was visiting a water point that was 10 meters from their houses. So imagine the impact that you have to walk 6 hours a day to fetch water. And now there is a water point 10 meters from your house. On average, our water points are 500 meters from every single household in these villages. So the the gratitude of that people is unbelievable. The happiness of these people, we are really, really changing their lives. I remember I was talking with a lady that she was like 90 years old, and she fetched water since she was 4 years old.
Mm,
And there was a water point in front of her house. So I remember her, like she was hugging me and
mm,
saying thank you, and she was so happy that it's difficult to describe. You have to go there and see these people to really understand the magnitude of what we are doing there, and the impact of these donations being transformed in changing their lives. So this was very. I made some videos. Some of them we publish in the channels, in the social media channels.
yeah, it's incredible, and I think for anyone who would want to join a Karimu volunteer, I think one of the biggest perks is being able to see firsthand the impact of Karimu projects, and also the unending, untiring show of gratitude that buoys you up when you're tired and reminds you whatever it is you're worried about or you're fussing about in your head is nothing compared to what these people struggle with, but also gratitude just kind of wipes out all of those petty things and makes you realize that you can do anything with this power of gratitude. It is so wonderful to hear you relive that. And as you know, Don and I have been going for over 15 years now to Tanzania, to this community, and I still get emotional, and I'm still blown away by it, and I still learn how to be a better person every time I go.
Yeah,
So
that's,
I
we
yeah.
learn much more than what we teach, and we receive much more than what we give when we go there.
Okay, now second trip.
Second trip. Okay, second trip. My intention was to be a shadow of Nelson. So for those that don't know Nelson, Nelson is the COO of Karimu, and Nelson is a big reference for me as a professional and as a person. He used to be a Google's senior vice president. For Brazilians, Nelson represents a lot because he was the Brazilian that reaches the highest hierarchy in Google ever. And especially on technologies, he was like a kind of an idol for me, right? And a mentor. And I want to spend time with Nelson to see how he works there, because I want to increase my influence in these projects. I want to learn from him. So, and the best way to learn is for me, is to find an example that you can follow, right? So, I learn that I'm not very good in learning reading, but I'm very good in learning, seeing examples and living examples. This is the way I learn. And at the end, we were also bringing two volunteers with us that are important donors of Karimu, and we want to show them the impact of their donations. So Karimu is very careful in showing to the donors the impact and where their money are being invested. At the end, there was a problem with this couple, and they couldn't be with us, so I was 24/7 with Nelson. It was really good for me, that I learned a lot from him. And also my challenge in this trip was to generate content. So I invested some money in buying a new camera. I bought my cell phone with some accessories, and I was generating content and telling stories of the impact of Karimu. And my third role there, I was an instructor for our staff. So I gave a training session to our staff about our principles, about the importance to have an entity that follow the values. So was also very important to highlight to them how it's important to speak up, to collaborate, to follow our values, right? So I have some experience in building culture in the business side. Now I'm reinforcing Karimu culture with our staff, so it's something that I like a lot. And
So I'm
Maria,
going to pause right there just to stop just a second about the culture. One of the things that attracted me to who you are and what you want to do is I see the value in you, that you care about the culture of a work environment, because that was very fundamental to Don to Don and me when we first started. Is it's not just getting the job done. You will never have a sustainable impact if all you're doing is going in there and saying, okay, what's the project, how do we get it done, et cetera, et cetera. And if there aren't any underlying principles such as Karimu has, like listening, listening, listening. You're not always right. You don't know what these people's challenges are in depth because you don't live there every day. And oftentimes they have solutions that you would never have thought about. And also we only give to the community. We uplift the community. We don't want a beggar mentality. We want a strong community, and we want to be honest and transparent, and we want to work strategically with the community. So I was wondering, I know I'm kind of putting you on the spot right now. When you were talking with the staff, was there any kind of memorable thing that you thought, wow, these guys really have it together, or they really understand what it means to work for Karimu? How was that working with them? Did you feel like they were incorporating the principles of Karimu? And obviously we need to continue to learn and to develop and to really visibly show how we live those principles. But just anyway, anything you could think of.
No, I think it was one of the best groups that I ever worked on this topic, Maria. And I told this to Nelson, and I told this to them. It was unbelievable how we had a extremely constructive conversation and a mature conversation. We openly said that, okay, we have these principles, and two or three of them we are not doing very well, and we need to improve. For example, in the Tanzanian culture, the hierarchy and the respect for the boss or the elders is very strong. So people don't speak up. And speaking up and working together is one of our work principles, and it's very valuable to us. And listen, right? So doesn't you cannot listen if people don't speak, right? So speaking up was a topic that we all agreed that the team needs to improve, because it's very difficult for them, for their country culture of overing respect hierarchy, to speak up. So if Mariana goes there and say, do this, usually they follow, and they don't say, hey, Marianne, I don't think you are right. I think this is wrong. So they follow you and they are quiet. So we were discussing where they need improvement. And it was one of the best sessions I ever did about culture, and as a team, to raise the hand, say, I commit to improve on this, and that. We made an activity that each one of them raised their hand and wrote, I'm not doing well here, and that, and I commit to do this, and this better. And 1 month later, I had a follow-up session where they said about their evolution and then improvement. So it was one of the best groups I ever worked with. If you dedicate time, energy, and you really care about these people, they will do amazing things.
Yeah, that is so true. And the whole thing about speaking up, I have to say, as an old lady, it's really nice to be respected, especially, in the West, there isn't that respect for the elderly the way there is in Tanzania. However, what I would always say to them is if you don't speak up, and I will make mistakes, and then we will have to waste time and backtrack, etc. So please, I put it this way, out of respect for me, please tell me when I'm doing wrong. That's actually a respectful thing, because then you can save me from making a big mistake. And so that's, and I love what you said about, yeah, we listen, but if nobody speaks, what are we listening to? That's a great line.
That's
Okay,
right.
so let us continue. It sounds like that second trip, you really dug in and started doing some practical work for Karimu. And I think maybe if I could speak for you, you probably learned how detailed and how in depth we go in Karimu with our projects, and the way that we approach everything so comprehensively.
Absolutely. So uh, I went through more details. I learned more, I think, and something very interesting happened with me, with my feelings. I'm not sure that I told you this before, but in the first time I went, the intense poverty that you see, and in the first day of the volunteer trip, we bring the volunteers to the very, very poor community that we still didn't start working with, or we are starting the work. So the poverty hurts you. It's so sad that it really, it's like a knife in your chest. And after understanding Karimu methodology, and after working and seeing the impact in the schools, seeing the impact of the water project, that now people, they have water, seeing the schools as a center of hope of that community for a better life, and the next generations, they will have much better chances because of this structure, this methodology that we built, not giving anything to individuals, not giving anything for free. All the projects are self-sustainable in long term. They need to maintain the projects. The impact of poverty on me changed dramatically. So I start meeting that kids that they were very dirty, but I I I start seeing them with hope. I'm not seeing them with sadness.
Mm,
I was
mhm.
seeing them with hope
Yep, that's very powerful.
because I
That's very
trust
powerful.
the methodology, and I trust also the culture of Karimu, that more than 95% of all the donations go directly to the projects. Less than 5% go to salaries and management, because most of the work is done by volunteers. We only have staff, paid staff in Tanzania. So, so I trust so much in the methodology and the culture that I start seeing the poverty with hope and not with sadness.
Oh my gosh, that is so beautiful, Adu.
You
That
understand?
is so beautiful. I no, you did not tell me that, and thank you for sharing that. And that is, I think, now I'm the interviewer, so I have to be not as emotional here, but I have to control myself here a little bit because that is why Don and I kept coming back.
Uh-huh.
Is we did not see these people as problems that needed to be fixed. And I think so often with the way people look at poverty, they're afraid to look at it because it's so painful. And then when they look at it, it's so overwhelming. It's like, what could I possibly do? And then when they look at it, they also see the people as problems that they need to solve rather than wholly three-dimensional human beings with great hope and great skills and great intelligence who just need some facilitation.
Yeah,
And
and they need
uh,
a push.
yeah, and hope seems to be endless, and that is inspirational. And when Karimu first started, many of our projects took much longer. Like at Bacho School, it took us 3 years to bring water just to one school. Now we're doing, whole wards with 200 water points. But the people knew that we would hold to our promise. And that's another Karimu principle, that if we promise something, we do it. And they know that they can trust us. So they have learned to wait, but they've never ever given up hope. And thank you for sharing that with me. That is just phenomenal and so inspiring. And I will keep that and remember it. Thank you so much.
Now, I have to thank you to help me to have all this transformation inside me. So I have to thank you here.
So I think you've talked a lot about what's rewarding. You're welcome, by the way, and I hope you stay with us for many, many years. And it is lovely to work with you because you have such an open heart. You have a great brain and an amazing heart. So what could be a better combination, right? Um, so I would like to know what some of your challenges have been. I think it's kind of connected to this whole idea that you have come across, I think, as being such a successful executive, businessman, entrepreneur. It was like, oh, I can unlock the generosity and get more donations to Karimu. And tell us a little bit about that challenge that you've had. And that's the phrase you came up with, is how do we find the key to unlocking generosity?
Yeah, so when I arrived full of energy and excitement. So I said, "Oh, I have some ideas to increase donations. I'm sure that I can bring more volunteers to Tanzania, and these people will think like me, and they will donate, and they will become volunteers." And I was very wrong. Um, so first of all, I'm finding many big frustrations in my new career. Some of them happened in Brazil, where I tried to make some social projects and I failed miserably. Um, I failed in trying to ask for donations. I failed in trying to convince nonprofit entities to be self-sustainable and to create self-sustainable projects and long-term projects. There are many entities that are, and nothing against this, but it's just not my philosophy. But they work to help in an isolated short-term project, giving things to solve a problem. Uh, and what I learned in Karimu is that, of course, we want to help. Of course, I want to. You want to give a $20 bill to a person that they don't have any water or food, but this does not solve the problem in long term. You just decrease the impact for 1 week, but the problem is still there. So, and this is what's interesting. Nobody asked you beg for money when you are there as a volunteer, because they know that Karimu volunteers, they don't give money. They give to the community. They don't give to individuals. They they work for the projects. So we work in the foundation, that the foundation will transform their lives. And they prioritize, they know what they want. We just help them. Um, so coming back to the challenges, so now I think that the number one challenge for me is how to unlock generosity on people. So when you show a video of a kid dirty, fetching dirty water with terrible clothes, sick with a big belly, when you show this video to a person, you usually impact this person. The majority of people, as human beings, they feel touched by this video. But from this impact, to this person start making a recurrent donation, or for this person to make a trip, stop their own calendar, their personal calendar, or give up on their vacation to go to help these people, is a big chasm. It's a big gap. And on the other hand, there are a lot of people that are willing to donate, that want to help, and sometimes they don't have the tools, or sometimes they don't trust. So what I'm learning is that to unlock generosity, first you have to touch these people on something that relates to them. Like a teacher probably will be touched by a poor school, or an entrepreneur can be touched by a story of a Tanzanian entrepreneur that needs help, or a chef, or a person that works on a owner of a restaurant. They can be touched by a situation about food, or a kitchen in a school. So each individual must have a spot that you can, a place that you can touch with a message, and then you need to give the tools for this person to act. And I think the action will happen when you trust, when you build trust. So I went to Tanzania because I trust Nelson first. I trust him as a professional, as a person. I trust him as a good example for my career, and my hope to find happiness in the life. So Nelson was an example, a role model for me. So I think now Karimu needs to build trust with more people, and bring more people to Tanzania, and communicate better our values, what we do. I was so happy when I saw our annual report, because brings our communication and the trust building to a next level. If you read our annual report, you see the impact, you see where the money goes, you will see the people that makes difference. You read about stories of the impact. So I think now I'm learning how to communicate better, to touch people, how to invite more people to come as a volunteer to Tanzania, and how to build this trust. Um, yeah, so this is my number one professional challenge now. Are you there, Marianne? I think Marianne, we lost her connectivity. Let's wait a little bit, and I think she will be back in a moment. Um, and talking a little more when we are waiting for Marianne, talking a little more about what I think is super important is when you start really working and being close to this type of campaigns or actions or entities. What people don't realize is that they receive much more than what they give. So I work my whole life to make some money and um, have a safety net for my family, to educate my kids, for to save money for my kids to go to school, to buy a property, or to buy a house, or to buy an apartment. And this is important, of course it's important. But what was incredible is when I make this change, this transformation, and I start understanding the impact of people's lives doing this work, the level of satisfaction and happiness that happened with me was like 20 times bigger, 20 times bigger. So I really recommend you don't need to exclusively follow Karimu, but start understanding or meeting entities that really makes difference, that really allocates money to people that needs, and create a relationship. If it's possible, become a recurrent donor to these entities. And if you have time, or if you have the opportunity, go and spend hours close to what this entity do, close to the work, and I'm absolutely sure that you will receive much more than what you are giving. So this is my advice and my recommendation to you that wants to do something and sometimes didn't have the opportunity yet. Look for an entity that does a work with credibility, an entity that thinks in self-sustainable projects, an entity that spend well the money, and you will receive in happiness, in gratitude from people. You receive much more than what you are giving. Marianne, you are back.
Yes, thank you. So you continued talking, which I'm sure you had a lot to say. When my computer crashed, excuse me, it was you were talking about trust, and then I think what you just ended with is finding an entity that you could trust, and that is the foundation, I think, of building a strong nonprofit and getting continual funding and finding people like such as you to give to Karimu in all of the ways that you do, not only monetary, but your spirit. And you actually spur me on too, because, 15, 16 years of doing this, sometimes you get tired, but then I meet somebody like you and I just buoys me right back up again. So I really appreciate that. And did you already tell everybody, like, what is the word you want to spread about Karimu as an evangelist?
No, but we can say now.
Yeah, then we can say that now, and then we'll close out because this has been fantastic. Go ahead. What is like? I call Kari. I call Edu. Well, I did want to call him a Karimu hero, but he wasn't going to have anything to do with that. But a hero is somebody who has superpower, which I believe that you have. I believe you have the power. I think you have been transformed, and I think you have the power to transform others. And I don't think there's any obstacle that you can't overcome. So that's why I call him a Karimu hero, but he wants to be called an evangelist. So as an evangelist, what is the word that you would want to spread?
I'm a trainee to become an evangelist, so I'm trying. I make many mistakes, but I'm still learning. Uh, I think what I want to say is um, Karimu transformed my life in terms of happiness, in terms of the feeling to do good, to give back to society, to really make impact in people's lives. Um, and I want to invite you first, for those that are more has the adventure spirit, come with us in one of our volunteer trips. If you go to our website, there is a link that is our programs. There are many different types of programs. There are trips for families. We are bringing families. This year, probably we won't have the family trip, but in 2025, for sure, we will have a family trip. So we're bringing kids from 6, 7, 8 years old, also kids with 10, 11, 12, 13 years old. In the volunteer strip, the traditional volunteer strip that is happening now in June, late June, we can have young adults. So last year we had the young adults, we had a whole family with young adults and a couple. So come to visit Tanzania. This will change your life. Second request, become a volunteer. You don't need to go to Tanzania to become a volunteer. So we have social media groups, we have fundraising groups, we have many demands here in Karimu that you can help. Also, you can help with your talent. So, for example, I am giving presentations about entrepreneurships, and I'm charging for these presentations as a donation. Right? The money don't come to me; the money go directly to Karimu. So, my clients that request my presentation, I ask, okay, I will not charge you anything. I just ask you for a donation to Karimu. This is working. So I'm sure that you have your superpowers. Use your superpowers to bring resources to Karimu. And the last part is to donate. So you can go to our website. There is a donation button. If you go to our Instagram posts, there is a fundraiser, or Facebook, there is a fundraiser button that you can donate. Because, of course, we need now $6 million for the next 3 or 4 years that we are expanding our coverage. We did a great job in Ayalagaya, where we invested $5 million and we took 15,000 people from the intense poverty. Now these people, they have schools, they have a health center that 50,000 people were helped in this health center last year. We have the savings group where we help these people to save money. We have the entrepreneurship and income group. We have the water projects. So, but to do this in other areas, we need money, we need donation. So share our content as much as possible and share our donation campaigns as much as possible. You will really, really be helping to impact lives in Tanzania. And maybe someday we will expand to other regions, but we are still focused only in Tanzania for now with this holistic approach, with all these projects in the same area that really change the trajectory of this community.
Well, thank you, Edu. And everything you said about if you can come to Tanzania, great. But we do need volunteers and we do need funding so we can transform the Ari community the way we did with Ayalagaya. You did a short video that you're working on now, which is, it was like for $333 per person. So when you say $6 million, it's a few $100s per person. When you look at it that way, that's amazing.
And
So
we change
I,
them forever.
right.
$333 per person. You change this community forever. They will do the rest of the work.
Yeah, you
If you
change
follow our
that.
methodology, if we get $333 per person, we built the foundation and then they go. They will thrive.
That's absolutely true. And for those of you listening, we've been saying a lot of things like health, income, classrooms, and you're like, well, what do these people, we're all over the place, right? Well, actually, we're not all over the place. We have realized that you cannot eliminate poverty by doing one thing, that you must do all of the challenges that are raised because of poverty. Like, for example, lack of clean water, lack of access to good health, lack of access to education, lack of access to income, financial services. So we have these 5 pillars. And because we have done this comprehensively, we really have the statistics that we can prove that we eliminated poverty in Isla Gaia. So if you want to learn more about Karimu and our intense comprehensive program, please go to our website, karimufoundation.org, and subscribe to our newsletter. In addition, we have YouTube channel, which is, we're trying to get more visits there. Share, share, share. Follow our Instagram, share our Instagram, follow Facebook, follow LinkedIn. And in that in itself, just sharing the good news of Karimu in a world where hope seems so diminished. Karimu does offer hope, and it is very gratifying to know you can, in this part of the world, make a difference. And it has been an absolute pleasure to have you, Edu, and look forward to seeing you all throughout the week in our mini meetings, because we work together very closely. Thank you again, and I wish you well on your new journey with helping Karimu.
Yeah, it was great, and I'm very uh, thankful for Karimu, and let's keep working on this. We are just in the beginning. We're just starting. Bye bye. Thank you.